We can get going.
We're live.
All right, perfect. All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this regular meeting of the Town of Grizzle Board of Finance to order May 19th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall Meeting Room. First item on the agenda is the roll call to order. We have all members present with the exception of Gail Rook-Norman and Tom Pulaski, and we do have a quorum. Before we continue, I would ask that somebody makes a motion to put it as 5B, discussion and possible action on budget. Somebody could make that motion so we can add that to the agenda.
I'll make the motion that we add 5B.
Second, Mark? First, okay. We have first and second. Any discussion? We're going to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you. Second on the agenda is public forum. Does anyone wish to speak? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on. Item 3A, approval of meeting minutes, May 7th, 2026, special meeting minutes. They weren't in their packet, but they should be as part of your packet now.
I'll make a motion that we approve the May 7th, 2026 special meeting minutes as presented.
Second that motion.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Hearing none, we're going to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. 4A, new business finance director's monthly report. The finance director is not here, so I'll just read what was provided. Finance director's monthly report for Board of Finance meeting, May 19, 2026. Line item transfers for us, we'll do at the next Board of Finance meeting in June 2026. Town budget has a balance of about 14%. Operating expenditures, town budget has a balance of 2% to be collected in revenue. Recycling revenue fees are higher than budgeted. Revenue of $72,357, which will grow once the town receives the June invoices from SCARA. This will offset the expenditure of Department 3204 waste disposal SCARA tipping fees. There are no significant items to be discussed in the town expenditures. Board of Selectmen, Department 1201, accounting 5120N, grant writer position interviewing on the 21st of April. Grant writer starts on May 18th, 2026. Grant writer has then started. Okay. Waste disposal 3204 tipping fees are over budget. They'll be over budget due to the increase in tonnage of bulky waste items. Town will return the money back to revenue under recycling fees 4610. Debt retirement 8101. Infrastructure loan principal and infrastructure interest will not be expensed in fiscal year 2026. The USD loan will be processed in fiscal year 2026 and first payment in fiscal year 2027. $64,210 and $64,313 will not be spent in this fiscal year. It will go back to the unrestricted fund balance, totaling $128,523. In the emergency contingency line item 7101, as of today, or as of this writing anyway, we have a balance of $102,552 in that account. In the unassigned fund balance, unless you guys need me to read every single part of it, as of 6/30/2026, we are expected, depending on where all things land, to be over by policy of $672,807.60. And I think out of that we used about $520,000 roughly, if memory serves me correctly. I think it was 320 and change, and then another 200 that we appropriated last meeting, which would come off the top of that. I'd love to answer any questions, but I'm not the one to ask them to, so you can either get a hold of the finance director directly or wait until the next monthly meeting. So with that, we're going to move on to item 4B, discussion and possible action on tanker truck lease purchase. We did earmark $200,000 toward that last meeting. There were then talks about whether or not it would be worth looking into to earmark that as part of the additional lease purchase in this year's budget. There was some paperwork that Kelly had provided us with regard to that. I'm not really quite sure how you feel at this point moving forward without her being present to answer any further questions. Matt?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like the motion to table this until next month when we can have the finance director here and also the fire chief for some questions.
Okay, Fire Chief of Grizzle Fire Department here
Correct.
also? Okay.
Yes.
I'll
So-
second it.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Okay, motion is to table this until next month's regular meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. 4C, discussion and possible action on Highway Department waste furnace oil purchase from capital non-recurring fund. Todd?
You have a copy of that, or?
We do have a copy of it, yep.
So in April, we had the company come out that cleans our waste oil furnace annually. They did the cleaning, and they found that multiple tubes in the furnace itself were burnt through. Last year, there was some corrosion that they brushed out, but this year, they're seeing that they actually are rotted through from the corrosion. So it's not operable. They won't let us use it, obviously, because of the potential of flame getting into the tube and getting out of the boiler. Boiler or furnace is 21 years old. So we're looking for replacement. They gave us this quote, they gave us the quote before they actually sent the owner out to do the final inspection, so that's why it's dated the 21st. He didn't do the inspection until the following week officially, but I asked them for a quote as soon as they told us it wasn't able to be used. And there was an original quote that was given. They thought we had a 500-gallon tank. We only have a 250-gallon tank, so that reduced the price, I think, by about $5,000.
Okay. I did talk to Kelly. Kelly indicated that we can take care of that out of the capital non-recurring. Hold on, let me pull it up.
And the only thing I'll say is, if people don't realize, we used to heat with propane up there. Used to have to keep it at 50, and it was probably 10, 15 grand a year back in the 90s. Now we burn the waste oil, which doesn't cost us anything, so we're not paying for fuel.
Okay.
It's just maintenance on the oil and purchase of the oil and land to be replaced.
Okay, and that's 27,321.32? Okay. So I did talk to Kelly. We do have the funds in the capital non-recurring account. We have about $100,000 in there.
You said this was a quote for the 500-gallon tank?
What's that?
This is a quote for 500?
No, this is the quote for 250 single wall tank. The original quote he gave us was for 500. We can't have 500. We can only have 500 gallons total of uncontained hazardous materials on site.
All right.
So that would put us over.
Question, on this quote,
Yep.
the unit price for that tank, oil tank and stand, is that a misprint of 0?
No, if we go with the 250 gallon tank, there's no charge for it.
Okay.
When we went with the 500, there was a charge for it,
Yep.
and they were giving you a free air compressor to run the furnace. We already have an air compressor, but that was the deal. So once we changed it, they throw the tank in and they get rid of the air compressor.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to make sure,
That's accurate.
so the numbers
Okay.
are.
So
That's their promo.
I do have a question. Looking at this quote, I noticed that there is sales tax on this, being in municipality.
Yeah,
Is there-
the tax will come off.
Okay, so it's really the appropriation that we would need from capital non-recurring is really 25,690 then?
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Okay,
to approve the $25,690 from the non-recurring capital account for the waste oil furnace.
okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we're going to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 4D, discussion and possible action on tax collector suspense list. I think right behind that is the suspense list. Leona?
Yeah, everybody should have a copy of it in their packets, hopefully. So every year I am required by state statute 12-165 to create a list of accounts that are considered uncollectible, but still enforceable by law for 15 years from the due date of the tax. However, the accounts that are listed on the spreadsheet that was provided to you consists mainly of those folks who are deceased, and do not have an open estate, or they have an insolvent estate. Are folks who have been involved with bankruptcy, and those taxes have been discharged through the bankruptcy filings. And, that's the majority of this list on here, are the deceased folks and bankruptcy. So that total altogether for the tax amounts that I'm looking to have transferred into suspense. The original list that you did receive did have a total of $14,315.23. One of those accounts did pay from the estate, so the final total that needs to be moved to suspense is $14,044.48.
14,044.08.
Yes,
And you're looking for a motion to move those into suspense,
yes, I'm
correct?
looking for a motion to have those moved into the suspense file.
Okay,
Make a motion that we move the $14,044.08 into suspense file.
I'll second it.
okay. First and second, any discussion?
Question? On some of these that are deceased people that have estates, is that ever collectible for us?
Yeah, sometimes it is, because sometimes it does take a couple of years, for estates to be closed, depending upon the independent situation. And just for reference, so I did run a report today, just for, your knowledge, since July 1st through today, I have collected $19,985.47 on those, accounts that were previously suspended, so they are still collectible and enforceable. It just can't be considered as an asset for budgetary purposes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up on the agenda, discussion of possible action on tax collector's old credit balances.
Yes, so, there is a letter in there, so, per statute 12-129, when people apply for refunds, they are legally allowed to request, the refund of an overpayment or a credit on their account, for 3 years from the due date of the tax. We do make multiple attempts. We actually initiate the refund process from my office when there is a credit on the account that's more than $2. We send out a refund form to that taxpayer, letting them know that there is an overpayment, you are entitled to get your money back. Even though the state law says they're supposed to require it, I do it as a courtesy, it's just the right thing to do in my mind. We do send 2 sets of follow-up letters after that if they do not respond. And after those 3 cycles go through, then once it reaches the time period, where they can't apply for it anymore, that's who gets put onto this list that I have provided to you folks that are in there. So the spreadsheet, you can see the majority of those accounts, I think it's a total of 37 of the accounts on there are $2 or less, which we don't refund for anyway, nor do we create bills for $2 or less. The ones that are more than $2 make up the rest of the spreadsheet. However, the total amount that I'm looking to have put back to remain in the general fund, I should say, not put back, but remain in the general fund, the total amount is the $1,798.96. This is really like a housekeeping item, so I can bring those accounts to 0, and for auditing purposes, it looks better and it gets rid of those extras that are no longer allowed to be returned to the taxpayer.
I see one person on this list who's dead.
Correct. That can be the case at times.
She's not getting a refund.
No, she is not.
I'll make a motion that we grant permission to the tax collector to remove the old credit balances totaling $1,798.96 as presented by Leona Shockey, our tax collector.
Second that motion?
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, 4F, review of schools' third quarter financial report. Sean?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You should have in your packets our third quarter financial report. We do report out each month to the Board of Ed, but by Connecticut State Statute 19-117, we are required to submit the report to the town. These quarterly reports are posted on our website. This is a comprehensive report of 8 pages. These figures were current as of April 17th, so we have another one coming out in about a week's time. We've been doing our best to mitigate the deficit that's primarily due to, as we've explained previously, unanticipated special education costs this school year. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have. Just a couple of notes about this report. It does assume that all monies are spent down. It is a worst case scenario, and our hope is that it will be a photo finish, but we're fairly confident that we're going to make budget this year.
That was obviously gonna be my next question. How do we stand on land in the plane? The only other follow-up question, I guess, are we still running a deficit in tuition revenue?
We're a little bit, as we discussed, behind. We had a student enroll this week that was a tuition down student. It is still under, but it's over what we projected for next year, which is a good sign.
Yeah. Where do you think we're gonna land this year as far as a deficit in tuition revenue?
It's probably gonna be anywhere between 120 to 140 at this point in time, but.
Okay, so assuming that you're able to kind of straighten out the special ed side of things, we could be looking at having to make an adjustment and account for the 120, 150 grand in revenue.
The good news is we have embarked upon a campaign to recruit more students, and the numbers continue to go up. So hopefully we'll be over next year like we have been in the past.
Sure. No, I think this is the first year that I can recall where tuition revenue has fallen short of expectations and not beaten expectations. So, okay. Any questions for the superintendent? Okay, then we're gonna move on. 5A, update on audit. I did go ahead and I did contact the auditors to have them kind of modify their notification tree, I guess I would have to call it as such, that if in future years, future audits, when there are requests for information or if there are issues that, obviously on the town side, they'll include the first selectman. On the school side, they'll include the superintendent of schools. If they felt like they weren't getting anywhere, then at that point, I did request that they read whoever the chair of the Board of Finance happens to be in, so that we can then discuss it at a regular meeting. So, moving forward, I think that that's good to have a few more people within that loop, because let's face it, people get busy and things kind of fall off, and it's the more people that kind of know what's going on, I think the more checks and balances we have built into that system. I did get word today that the town and school both received a draft of the federal and state single audit. That's all I know at this point. I don't have any other information on that, and that the town should receive a draft of the financial statements later this week. So that's kind of where we're at there. I don't know if anybody has any questions, and I'm not really sure who can answer them, but it's kind of the update. 5B, discussion and possible action on budget. So, very recently, it was brought to my attention that there was an error in what was presented in the budgets that are going to town meeting. And essentially it was on the education side, that there was language within the bill law budget that indicated that the budget could be no less than what last year's budget was, plus the additional education appropriation that they just came up with at the 11th hour. So that puts us $690 short of where we're supposed to be versus where we are. I'm gonna be completely honest. We went to the town attorney to get some legal opinions because there were a few other questions that popped up, and that was a very quick waste of, $300 or $400 because literally I don't think we got any answers. There are really, I think, kind of two different ways that we can handle it. The first one obviously is the most drastic. If you take the camp that says, well, the numbers are the numbers and the numbers are not right, we need to cancel the town meeting. We need to come out with a corrected budget with the real number, which is just $690 more. Republish it in the paper, come out with, new ballots, schedule new meetings. That's scenario number one. Obviously, there are cost implications there because you've got another round of advertising, you've got another round of ballots, and whatnot. The second course of action would be for us to take some sort of official action tonight indicating that, once that budget is finalized, assuming that those numbers are where they are and they stay where they are, that as a board, we make an additional appropriation to the Board of Education budget after the budget's been ratified of $690. We can take that, I talked to Kelly, we can take that out of contingency if we need to, or, technically we can just make an entirely new appropriation without having to do it in a line item transfer form on that end because it's only $690. Certainly, that is the cleanest way, but I think that if we want to go that way, I think that it's important that it is on record of why we're doing it and exactly what we're doing it, so that moving forward, everybody understands what happened and how we are fixing it, and certainly from, even trying to fast forward, whether it could become an audit hot button, something like that, next year, and who knows? You can say, no, here's everything that kind of goes along, here's our documentation to show that, yeah, we did recognize it and we did make this correction and here's how it's gonna happen, and then once the budget passes, we will just go ahead and we'll make that appropriation accordingly so that the pot is right, so to speak. So I don't know how y'all feel about it. Before we kind of make any motions, if anybody has any opinions, go.
I think that's the way to go. It's cleanest, easiest, and we're not wasting more than $690 on it.
Yeah, it's a simple, easy way to go.
Yeah.
No question, I'm sorry.
Okay. So I'm not really sure how we want to frame that motion.
I just got one question.
Sure.
So for us to get that funding from the state, the budget has to land at that number, right? Last year's plus,
essentially, we've already been told by the state we're getting that funding, but what the state did was they threw a line in there that said, here's what that minimum number has to be that you're going to fund education, and we came up, $690
so
short.
what happens if the education budget fails at referendum and we have to cut, then we'll lose that funding?
I think you still make the appropriation.
I don't know if you'll lose that funding or not. I guess that's the $1 million question. I guess my answer to that, Rob, would be, I'm thinking that that's a scenario that, just like the previous scenario where they had to go into the 11th hour and make adjustments to that budget so that the legalese was present because they didn't think of everything. I think this was another scenario that they didn't think of. I don't think that, out of 169 towns, Griswold's not going to be unique to having a vote that's, a budget that's voted down when they fund it at, wherever they're at. So do I think that it's going to have to be dealt when it's going to have to be dealt with? Could there be legal challenges? Certainly there could. My personal belief is I don't think the intent of the legislature was to handcuff any municipality from being able to make any cuts. I think that was a starting point. We'll say that, look, as your starting point, we're going to allow you to use this money to offset your mill rate, but we're not gonna allow you to go crazy and say, okay, now you're gonna lower it down to a quarter of a mil, you know, we're gonna throw in kind of a, you know, an initial stopgap. But I would believe that, you know, the intent of the legislature was not to say you can't do anything, because let's face it, we run a bifurcated budget. We're one of several towns that run bifurcated budgets. And I'll use the scenario, if general government passes and the Board of Ed fails, you cannot reopen the general government budget, signed, sealed, and delivered, it's done.
Yep.
So you have three choices, on the education budget. One is to increase their line item. One is to say, we've put forth a responsible budget, we're sticking to our guns, here it is, and you send it back out as is. And the third scenario is to reduce it. I would like to believe that the legislature wasn't trying to build in some sort of a aha gotcha moment where, you know, no municipality would be able to reduce a budget. I truly believe that that was the stopgap initially, so that municipalities couldn't go crazy and, you know, and then, you know, not only apply that towards revenues and lowering the mill rate, but then lower it even more than that. So I don't know. That's the $1 million question.
Right.
That's one of the
That would be my
answers
only
that,
concern
that's one of
is-
the answers that didn't get answered, so I
Because
mean,
we're right there at the,
you know,
at the line.
when it happens, we'll have to deal with it at that point, but, or if it happens.
Couldn't you just wait until July to make that adjustment?
No, we're not talking about the adjustment, we're talking because the state had said that you can't go below what they were.
Yeah, I understand that, I'm saying, instead of taking action today.
I think that what we need to do, because look, we have public hearing tomorrow, the numbers are wrong. The numbers are short by $690, so the point of tonight taking action is just to show that we recognize that there's that problem, and moving forward into the next fiscal year, we will make that adjustment more.
All right.
I mean, otherwise, the other alternative is to say, hey, we know we're putting forth numbers that aren't right and technically aren't legal based on the verbiage in the budget. That's just my opinion. I mean, I'm more than willing to, we can talk through it. I just,
So would we looking at a motion to appropriate that, providing the budget flows out at that 690 short, to take that from contingency for that offset to make that balance?
we don't, if you don't even want to say contingent, we're just that, provided that the budget passes as presented,
Yeah.
the, Board of Finance will make an additional appropriation of $690 to the Board of Education budget upon passing.
I'll just make that motion then. That, if the budget passes as currently stands, that the Board of Finance will appropriate $690. Any change to that, or just 690 straight?
690 will determine where it's going to come from.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, and that we will appropriate that to fill that gap,
Okay.
to bring it to that minimum standard.
Okay. Everybody good with that
From
language?
ENC? You have to make that?
From where?
Just, okay, I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Is everybody comfortable with that language? Mark?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's.
Richard, are you
that's a
comfortable with that
reasonable approach.
language?
The only question is whether or not the budget as is quote illegal, right? So we approve an illegal budget by their word.
Well, I mean, illegal's maybe my word, and maybe that's a strong word.
Out of
but
compliance
it's,
with
yeah.
their, I just, I guess that's a solution to the problem, and I think we could try. And Rob's point is, well, they throw it out anyway, what are we gonna do then?
Right.
We'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Right,
It'll be a burnt bridge, that's for sure.
yeah. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, then we're gonna vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, any other business? I have just two things. The first one, an easy one. Everybody got in their packet a letter from the Booster Club. Some correspondence, really just kind of clarifying what their role is with regard to how they choose to spend their money and further fund different athletic things within the school system. I know we have some Booster Club alum in the audience. I am also one of them, so I can certainly speak to this letter, that has always really been the mission of the Booster Club and their philosophy on how things do get funded, what they choose to fund, and certainly it is not to supplant any normal budgetary item. It is really, I guess, for the extras. That's probably the best way to say it. So there is that. Any other business? I have one other item, Parks and Rec Youth Services, and this is really, I guess, for the selectmen, and I'm hoping that you can provide me, well, not just me, I'm hoping you can provide this board with some additional information. I had the occasion to watch the last Board of Education meeting, and I noticed that the Youth and Family Services / Parks and Rec made a donation of just somewhere, I don't know, maybe slightly over $2,000 worth of, I think it was Walmart gift cards to the Board of Ed. And I went back in the minutes, and back in April, they made another donation of Walmart gift cards to, I think it was, I think this might have been the high school and the middle school, and last month it was the elementary school, and that was for a little over $1,000 in Walmart gift cards. So I just have some questions in my mind from a Board of Finance perspective. First question, I guess, that I would have, and certainly if this board has any other questions that they would like answers to on this, please jump in. The first question, I guess, is how were those acquired? Were they just donated? Did monies from the Parks and Rec or Youth Services budget buy these gift cards? Because that would be the first question I have. Budgets are tight. I know that there was a lot of concern that was voiced in this round when certain cuts were made from departments. Operating budgets are tight. All of these budgets are operating budgets. We have a section within the town government budget that pertains to donations and contributions. And there is no line item for Parks and Rec / Youth Family Services donations under donations and contributions. So I'm concerned on one, how did we acquire these? And if they were just blindly donated, my other concern would then be, who is policing the receipt of these donations? Number one, how are they being accounted for? And who has the authority to decide where these go? Not trying to say that I believe that there's any impropriety, but I see that as an area of concern. Number one, like I said, are we taking town money and giving it to the school? That would be my first question. If not, maybe Walmart said, hey, we're gonna give you $5,000 worth of gift cards, but we have no idea how many thousands of dollars worth of gift cards there even were. We have no accounting, not that I'm aware of. So how did that come about? What's the system of checks and balances there? I would like that for our next regular meeting, because based on those answers, I think that as a board, we're probably going to want to draft a policy that's going to establish some very firm controls in that.
So you're saying there was 2 occasions of $1,000 donated?
There was, I think, 1,000 and change to one school. There was 900 and change to another school at this last meeting. So it was about $2,000 worth of, I think it was Walmart gift cards at this last meeting. I think it was on the 14th of May.
And you donated them to the schools?
Correct. donated and accepted. And then I think it was on the, I don't know, 20th of April or thereabouts, there was $1,030-something, I think, worth of Walmart gift cards that was donated to the elementary school and accepted at Board of Ed meeting. So my question is just, how did that come about? And where are our system of checks and balances? How do I know that there wasn't $10,000 of gift cards that was received? How do I, who makes the decision on how they get donated? I don't know of any other department that makes donations. So that, to me, is just, from an accounting standpoint, I'm just concerned that we want to make sure we have the right set of rules and checks and balances in place.
Okay.
So, thank you. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add on that, or any questions?
No, I agree.
Absolutely agree.
Okay. All right, then, next item, public forum. Does anyone wish to speak? Todd?
Babbitt, Brookfield Road. I just want to thank the board for taking a practical approach on the budget shortfall, I guess I would say, instead of going the other route, costing thousands of dollars. I think you took it into consideration and used common sense. So thank you.
Anyone else? Matt?
Yeah, is there, so just based on your opinion as a group with how we're handling that $960, could we, or not? $690, sorry, I got it off, back to $690.
What?
Could we put together something informationally, because people are gonna hear whatever 5 seconds of this meeting that they hear and aggregate part of the information, and there's gonna be 1,000 different stories as to what is happening with this and what happened and how it happened and all of that, so we could.
Are you talking about the $970 shortfall we're talking about? Yeah, I mean, I think that the easiest way to approach that, I mean, I don't care if somebody wants to put something out. I can work with Kelly tomorrow to put something out, but also we have the town meeting tomorrow evening. So that's an easy,
True.
that's also a very easy discussion point. I'm gonna lean on her to have to report all the values. So that's an easy discussion point as part of that the education budget is this. We realize that there was actually a small error in this, that the Board of Finance is going to appropriate. There'll be no additional cost to the taxpayers, because essentially we're going to, I think we'll take it out of contingency, or if we have to, we'll do it that way. So there won't be any additional cost to the taxpayers. It was truly an oversight,
Well, and I think saying it out loud and calling it out appropriately and taking it and having a genuine discussion about, all right, do we start from scratch here or do we make this modification is the right way to handle it. I just think it would be great if we had a simple and organized way to say, hey guys, this is what
Sure.
happened. And
Yeah, I mean, and I can even speak to that tomorrow evening at the town meeting as well. I mean, Kelly will kind of get through the primer, and we can, talk about what some of those additional costs, if we had gone kind of Plan A as opposed to Plan B. But, obviously, the reason why we brought it up in this forum too is it's not a secret, and nor do we want it to be, so. Tina?
I have a question, because, you're talking about how did this all come about? And I think we, meaning myself, both you and Kelly, were contacted by the school superintendent and the finance director yesterday about a webinar that they had been on. Am I correct? It was a webinar? And that's how this came about. So it's not that an error was found, it's just that through this webinar, they received different information that identified this problem. Now my question, because I certainly want to understand more about it. Now, it's kind of concerning that this webinar took place so late in the process, because it gave us, 48 hours to sit here and try to make a decision. And so I went on. Was the webinar through the School and State Finance Project? Is that who the web?
CASPO.
Okay, all right.
well,
No, and I remember hearing something similar to this, at one point when, I do remember hearing something about this, way back when.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, I don't think that I don't think that it really, I don't think it necessarily dawned on everybody. It was kind of
Yeah,
laser focused on where we were, and the numbers were, so close that it, wasn't kind of until the 11th hour that all of a sudden the math became the math.
When you talk about it and you present it, that, the residents understand that, it's not just as an error, it's just that this is information that came out final hour. And
Right.
it didn't give us much time
Right.
to work around it.
Sean?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, there was no harm in sharing the information. I thought it was better to share the information when it
Yes.
came out. While we want to be clear, we don't want to be accused of doing nothing in partnership with the town. There was also a webinar on May 8th, and I did email Kelly that this funding is not treated as ECS. It's treated as true supplemental aid. I think, with all due respects, if I may say for this room, that when this was put into place by the state of Connecticut, it was put into place in the final hour when the legislation went in. I think it was the night before their session. And I have participated in Connecticut State Department of Education webinars where, with all due respects, the authorities there don't have all the answers. So we felt it was incumbent upon us, after Mr. Christensen participated in this webinar, to contact the first select woman, the finance director, and Mr. Davis, because we wanted to be forthright with it. There was no harm, no foul. We wanted to present the information in a sort of courteous way so that you could make a decision, which I appreciate. It's a common sense decision.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
Sean.
I'm glad that you brought it up. I mean, I would not have wanted to have this come back on us, 6 months or a year from now, and somebody says, hey, your numbers weren't right, and they didn't get funded where they were supposed to, or, whatever.
I'm not saying no foul, no
I
harm.
appreciate that.
I mean, and I appreciate, we
Yeah.
appreciate the phone call,
Yeah.
but however,
This was to
it's
cause
just
angst for
unfortunate
the
that
town or to
it's
say
at this
someone made a
final
mistake.
hour. And I'm not saying it's your fault,
No, I
it's just,
understand.
it's late.
Right. Sue?
And actually, to Tina's point, though, she kind of tethered on where I was going. I think it's important, I think it's important to not label it as an error, because I don't think it was an error. I think that everyone had good intentions on putting forth the best budget, all sides. It's additional information at the last hour.
Right. No, good
Saying
point.
it's an error then puts blame, to
Right.
Matt's point, they're gonna blame anyway. So it'll be the Board of Ed's blame, or your blame, or, Board of
Right.
Selectmen. I think I would just caution, I wouldn't use the word error.
Right. No, that's a very good point. Lori, did you have your hand up?
I did not.
Okay, sorry. There were a lot of people there were a lot of hands that were kind of going like this for a while, so. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed, but, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, in that case, we're gonna move on to the final item 8, adjournment.
Make a motion.
Motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.